So, if a person wants to inquire about this, what would be the most important thing?
That's a tough question. You know, most important thing is easy to come up with something that sounds like an idea of what to do. you know,
Know what I would ask the person?
if they ask this to you, what you would say to them, or
If a person
Sometimes
wanted to
I-
inquire into this, I would ask them, well, how serious are you? Do you really want to know the truth? How important is the truth to you? Are you willing to give everything up for the truth? Are you willing to die for the truth? Then maybe we can inquire. That sounds kind of radical, but it's not actually.
mm-hmm.
So to me, the most important thing, we're coming back to this passion for truth, and self-concern's going to get in the way. So, but anyways, that's what I was thinking along those lines.
Are you willing to die for the truth? To inquire into this. Well, what is, what is the self-inquiry then? To inquire into this. I guess the question is who's actively inquiring?
Right.
Who
That's the question.
who's
Is the
who's
inquiry
inquiring?
is the inquiry out of self-concern?
Mm-hmm.
Always something interesting to ask yourself. Am I doing this out of self-concern? Am I doing it we all strive, people strive to better themselves.
Mm-hmm.
People are avoiding discomfort and pain, and they're looking for the good life, and they're looking for happiness, and they're looking for pleasure, and they're avoiding pain. It sounds pretty normal and natural. It's self-concern, and some of that self-concern seems to be warranted. I don't want to be in pain. Not physical pain. And then there's psychological pain. Somebody says you're stupid, and then there's that pain. And we avoid that too. And we avoid seeing that in our own eyes about ourselves. So we really get wrapped up in this self-concern thing, and you can see where it's justified, where is like, I don't want to break my arm, I'm not going to do that. That's kind of like intelligent, a kind of avoidance of pain. But there may be an avoidance of pain, and a lot of pain caused by something that not even real, that we don't understand. We don't understand that it's not real, and it takes on a life of its own, and we get very attached to it. And the end of that is death. And that, inquiring into that, can be very scary, very uncomfortable. You know, the whole sense of pride, you know, the power of being proud and being filled with pride and pledge allegiance to the flag, the whole bit. There's tremendous security in that, and pleasure, and just feeling of power, and you get the picture. I think we all get the picture, you know. And then when that's threatened, there's fear, horrified. Because we depend on that for feeling good. So the whole human race is caught up in this dynamic. It's attached to various ideological principles about how we should live and how we shouldn't live. God forbid we shouldn't be following them. And if somebody else isn't following them, they're a threat. And I think we better bomb them. You know, to put it bluntly. And
so
sorry, I got carried away.
Okay, so what is really threatened? Because we talked a little bit about the identity before being threatened. You know, we used identity when we were inside. We were talking about that. So loosely, identities can be a lot of different things. It can be a whole bundle of the idea of who I am. But can we hone in a little bit more on what is really threatened? So if we're inquiring into this, it'd be really nice to pinpoint the spot, which is
well, you know, we could just throw out some words, but I don't think that's sufficient. We could say, you know, we could blurt out, well, ego's threatened, well, self is threatened, well, the thinker of the thought is threatened. It's very hard, like there's a sense. Okay, so those are words. Let's see if we can get down to a feeling or a sense that of the sense of being in control.
Well, what is the sense, though? Because the feelings that emerge, people talk about a feeling that they might have about something. What is that actual feeling or sense that one has of being threatened or being in control?
Okay, so
does that emerge from any center?
So, what is this fear? So fear comes up. Can you have fear Can you have fear without thought?
Well, many of my questions are driving towards looking into thought a bit. I mean, we're using a word, but it's a word that people
It's
can
going to be
understand
hard to get at
of
here.
thoughts. You know, that we have these thoughts. They're thoughts, which are can be memories and layers of the past that emerge as I'm thinking this. Right? Is it all? Is there connections to thought, connected to thought? It's just a word to use. Right. So what is driving the mechanism of the being threatened? What is threat?
Right.
And we've determined that, we talked about that before, more in terms of the identity is threatened. You see, identity is big.
You know
big
what the
word.
problem here is? I don't think there's anything there.
That nothing is threatened.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Is there anything real there?
Something
Okay,
feels that there is.
There's an assumption.
Okay.
So there's some kind of assumption here. There has to be a sense of some entity, something.
Mm-hmm.
There can't be a threat without a thing being threatened. So I think we might be getting to something here. So there's a sense of a thing, a separate thing. So if there wasn't a separate thing, like a thinker, like something, a feeler, a thinker, a doer, would there be anything threatened? So we need this sense of separateness to be threatened. Okay, so let me do this silly little thing that I usually do. How is this thing created? Seems to me it might, just for people to kind of consider, that it might be created by thought saying, at some point in human history, maybe thousands and hundreds of thousands of years ago, I have no idea, hey, those are my thoughts. I am thinking those thoughts. Now that's an assumption, like when you look at a track and you say, it's a coyote. That doesn't mean it's right. So thought says, those are my thoughts. I'm thinking those thoughts. That's an idea. Just like that's a coyote track. There's no difference. It's no more real than that's a coyote track. But this catches on. Those are my thoughts. I'm thinking those thoughts. You see, there's a separation. Now, this idea has created an essence. It's now a thing. It's a thing that's separate from thought. It's separate from the feelings. It's created this island, this thing.
It's having the feelings. It's having the
right, and
thoughts.
It's an American. It's a Muslim. It's it has all these identifications and all these emotions are attached to it, and it's kind of like got a life of its own now. There's all kinds of pain associated with it. There's all kinds of pride associated with it. We're in a mess now. We're in a mess. And the whole world's got this mess. So that's what's threatened. That's where the self-concern is.
Well, one of the things I had down was really trying to dig into what the root of the issue is, right?
There it is.
Yeah. I mean, we can really hit that as the root, I think. Yeah.
You're going to be open about this.
Okay, so if that's the source of the threat, if that's what's being threatened.
Right. Is the truth more important than than that self-concern? Is the truth more? You ready to give that up?
Well, this is interesting. To give it up, are you ready to give it up? Asking someone that question.
Yeah. Right.
Do they have is it a choice?
No.
Do they have
no,
a choice?
it's not their choice.
Are they going to make it happen? Are they going to will it?
Right. The problem can't get rid of itself. As soon as it acts, it enhances itself. It reestablishes itself. Even if it goes to kill itself, in that very act, it reestablishes itself.
So this is like a conundrum, really, for someone listening to this, if they listen and follow that through to where we just came to on this one.
Okay.
You know, if
Now,
someone's
is
left
is there an awareness of all that? Then what happens? Okay, so I'm this motorcycle gang leader. I'm the head honcho, macho guy. I take great pride in that. The feelings of incredible power in that. There's some kind of security it gives me. But all of a sudden, there's a scene that I'm this macho guy and I have all this persona because I'm afraid not to be macho. The undercurrent of machismo is fear. Those guys are afraid not to be tough. Well, when you see that, when there's a scene that, when something's seen, it's kind of like, so, can I play the game now? The game's messed up, right? I mean, it's not really, I'm not really tough. I'm afraid not to be tough. I mean, that's not really being tough. All that bravo, all that is all out of fear. So where am I now? Things have changed. So singing's its own action. Singing is its own change. So if all this stuff we talked about, if there's a scene, all that, can you go on playing the game? You know? Or is the game over? And did you have anything to do with it?
Right.
See, it's gone. It's wiped away.
I mean, that's a change. It's like an unwilled change.
It's not really wiped away because it's ingrained, but
Well,
we
yeah,
can
we
talk
talked
about
about that,
some too.
Right. Would want to go into that. I don't know.
Well, we're kind of.
Yeah, because then the change. So let's say the change, but there's all this machismo that you've been for the past 15 years. So what do you? Or all of a sudden now you're completely be able to give all that up, or is it? It's not believed in anymore, but is it still? It's in your it's wired into you.
Right, you're wired. All
so
this
used to being
emotion and
attacked.
all this stuff is wired in.
Mm-hmm.
It's hardwired. It's in the cellular neural pathways, yada yada. I don't understand the biology of it, but it's wired. So even though there's a waking up to, I've been living a lie all this time. But all that emotion and all that, it's still going to come up. People are going to push buttons and all that stuff is still simmering there and it's going to fly off. Even though there's been a scene through it all, and even though you don't really believe it anymore, you can't really take it serious anymore, it's popping up. I mean, you realize you don't have control over it anyways. There's nobody there who is master of it. It just has a life of its own. But muscles atrophy. You know, and if you're not responding to it and fighting it and resisting it and concerned about, self-concern again, and if you're not flexing those muscles because of what the seeing has revealed, you're not flexing those, you're not using those neural pathways, they're slowly atrophying. And the human being changes. That's my experience anyway, is the human being changes.